Who was the Zodiac, the most elusive and brutal serial killer in the United States who taunted the police for decades? How? Dozens of letters, calls to TV shows, and messages on the bodies of victims. I will tell you a story of insane human cruelty combined with incredible intelligence and audacity, where the killer outsmarted the best detectives. Beginning. The late 1960s in the United States is remembered not only for political upheavals, but also for cultural changes. During these turbulent times, two insane killers were operating in California, leaving an indelible mark on the state's history. While Charles Manson and his criminal commune were quickly exposed, with Manson himself ending his days in a prison cell, the fate of the other killer, the Zodiac, turned out differently. This killer not only managed to avoid arrest, but also became a true cult figure. Yes, he even inspired several dozen imitators. But what was wrong with him? The Zodiac acted in an unconventional manner for a serial killer. He not only left traces of his crimes, but also actively communicated with the police and the media. He eagerly sent letters to newspapers, mocking investigators and detailing his crimes, maintaining public interest in his persona for several years. His arrogance reached the point where he publicly declared, "The police will never catch me because I am too smart for them." This defiance of law and order, his ability to remain free despite police efforts, makes the Zodiac's story one of the most mysterious and discussed in American criminal history. How could a person avoid justice for so long, playing cat and mouse with the law? And who did he turn out to be in the end? Let's go step by step. First, murders. How did it all begin? On December 20th, 1968, a tragic event occurred at Lake Herman. Students David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were killed in their car late in the evening. No witnesses or significant clues were found at the time, and the investigation came to a dead end. 6 months later, on the night of July 4th, 1969, the story repeated with another couple. This time, Michael Mageau and Darlene Ferran were targeted. Less than 40 minutes after the attack, the Vallejo police received an anonymous call. What was said? A mysterious voice claimed responsibility for this and the previous year's killings. According to the dispatcher, the caller seemed to be reading his confession from a sheet. The call was traced. It was made from a payphone located near one of the victims' homes and just a few blocks from the police station. Despite severe injuries, Michael Mageau miraculously survived the attack. This became a key moment in the case, as he became the only surviving witness of those terrible events, but it was only the beginning. Zodiac Calls. On July 31st, 1969, a significant event in this story occurred. The editorial offices of 3 California newspapers, Vallejo Times, Herald, San Francisco Chronicle, and San Francisco Examiner, received letters from a person who claimed responsibility for the attacks on couples the previous and current year. The letters were unusual. Each contained a fragment of a ciphered text that, according to the author, was supposed to reveal something. On August 7th, the San Francisco Examiner received another letter, which became crucial in the investigation of the series of murders. The author of these letters first called himself Zodiac, which was unusual since frightening nicknames for serial killers are typically coined by the press or the public. But the Zodiac chose his name himself, thus beginning his dark legend. In this letter, he responded to the police chief's call to provide proof of his involvement in the crimes, describing details that were unknown to the general public and could only be known to someone involved in the murders. The next day, remarkably, a school teacher named Donald Hardin and his wife from Salinas managed to decipher the message sent by the Zodiac on July 31st. The decrypted text was shockingly brutal and cynical. "I like killing because it is fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. It is the most thrilling experience, even better than getting your rocks off with a girl." Yes, this statement was reprinted by all the newspapers, and people were simply afraid to leave their homes in the evenings. What happened next? On the evening of September 29th, 1969, one of the most mysterious and theatrical attacks by the Zodiac occurred. On the quiet shores of Lake Berryessa, he attacked Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Ann Shepard, who were enjoying a peaceful outing. The perpetrator didn't just choose his victims, but appeared in an unusual costume, creating a macabre show. His face was hidden by a black hood resembling a medieval executioner's attire, and he wore an apron with a symbol, a crossed circle. The Zodiac attacked the couple, inflicting multiple stab wounds. Afterward, he left his mark on the victim's car, carefully drawing it with a felt-tip pen. This act emphasized his desire not just to kill, but to leave messages that made the public and the police guess his motives and next steps. It was a peculiar game, but with real lives at stake. That same night, at 7:40 p.m., the Zodiac called the Napa County Sheriff's Office. He reported his crime, demonstrating cold-bloodedness and calculation. The police found fresh fingerprints on the phone, but they were not identified in the databases. Hartnell survived despite severe injuries, and Shepard, though wounded, managed to give a description of the attacker before the ambulance arrived. The next murder took place on October 11th in San Francisco. The Zodiac shot taxi driver Paul Stein, then stole his keys and wallet, and tore off a piece of his blood-stained shirt. The crime was witnessed by 3 teenagers who managed to call the police and give statements. However, due to a dispatcher's error in relaying the suspect's description, the officers who encountered a man matching the witness's description simply asked if he had seen an armed person and let him go, following the given direction. A few days after the murder, on October 14th, the Zodiac sent a letter to the Chronicle where he confessed to the taxi driver's murder and included a piece of the victim's shirt as proof. This murder was the last one officially attributed to the Zodiac, but the show didn't end there. Unofficial Crimes. In one of his letters, the Zodiac threatened to carry out a monstrous attack on a school bus, describing his plan to shoot out the bus's tire and then shoot the children as they exited. Fortunately, this threat was never realized. No school bus attacks were committed by the Zodiac. But later, another incident occurred which is linked to the Zodiac. He announced that he would call a live morning TV show in Oakland if well-known attorneys Francis Lee Bailey or Melvin Belly were present in the studio. Melvin Belly did come to the studio, and during the show, a call came in from a person claiming to be the Zodiac. However, it was later discovered that the caller was a patient from a psychiatric hospital, not the real criminal. On November 8th, the Chronicle received another letter from the Zodiac, which was deciphered only decades later, in 2020. In this letter, the Zodiac denied his involvement in the TV show call, claiming it wasn't him who called the studio. In the next letter, which arrived the following day, the Zodiac described in detail his encounter with the police after the murder of taxi driver Paul Stein, emphasizing how close he was to being caught, but managed to escape due to an error in the description provided to the patrol officers. These letters added new details to the already convoluted picture of the Zodiac's actions and manipulations, which kept both the public and the police on edge. But did the police really fail to catch the killer all these years? By the way, what should you do if you encounter an erratic driver on the road? Or if you're involved in an accident in America? Where do you go for help? How do you find a competent lawyer? How do you get compensation if you don't have insurance? The company DTP America has helped its clients obtain $21 million in compensation. They will surely answer all your questions. Link in the description. Who is he? For many years, Arthur Lee Allen remained the main suspect in the Zodiac case. He repeatedly came to the attention of the police for various crimes, including molestation of teenagers. Allen lived near the location of the Zodiac's first known murder, the killing of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, which only increased suspicion toward him. In 1972, his home was searched, but no evidence linking him to the murders was found. In 1974, Allen was arrested on suspicion of killing 7 girls, after which he spent 3 years in a psychiatric hospital. Since then, the murders stopped. When DNA tests became available in the early 1990s, the investigation turned its attention to Allen again. A stash of weapons and a Zodiac brand watch were found in his home, further fueling suspicions. He provided saliva samples for DNA analysis and underwent a polygraph test, but the results showed that he did not leave traces at the Zodiac crime scenes. Michael Mageau, who survived one of the Zodiac's attacks, confidently identified Allen from a photograph as the person who attacked him, adding weight to the suspicions. However, all doubts and speculations remained unresolved after Allen died of a heart attack in 1992. In 2002, after conducting DNA testing, it was revealed that Allen's genetic material did not match the DNA samples left by the Zodiac. The investigation realized they had been led astray all those years. New discovery. The Zodiac case continues to captivate minds to this day, remaining one of the most elusive and discussed police mysteries of the 20th century. Despite the slow progress and complete secrecy of the official investigation, a new hope for solving this case has recently emerged thanks to the work of the group The Case Breakers. This team consists of former FBI agents, police officers, military personnel, journalists, and amateur sleuths. They are known for their work on cases such as the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. The Case Breakers have proposed the hypothesis that the Zodiac was Gary Francis Post, who passed away in 2018 at the age of 80. Their main argument is a photograph from Post's archive showing scars on his forehead similar to those described on the Zodiac. Additionally, these detectives established a connection between Post and the murder of Sherry Jo Bates, which occurred in Riverside on October 30th, 1966, a crime that has also been periodically associated with the Zodiac. After Bates's murder in November 1966, an anonymous letter was sent to the Riverside Press Enterprise, in which the author claimed responsibility for the crime and warned that this murder was not the first and not the last. This adds weight to the suggestion that Post could be linked to the Zodiac series of crimes. Although this new information may seem compelling, it's important to remember that official law enforcement agencies have not yet confirmed this information as the definitive solution to the Zodiac case. The investigation continues. The additional evidence and testimonies presented by the investigative group The Casebreakers seem convincing in their attempt to link Gary Francis Post to the Zodiac crimes. The temporal and geographical proximity of Post to Riverside College, where Sherry Jo Bates was killed, his occupation as a painter with paint-spattered wristwatches found near the crime scene, and his military background, consistent with the army boots found at Zodiac murder scenes, all add credibility to this theory. Interestingly, the Casebreakers also claim that the cryptograms sent by the Zodiac reveal their meaning when Gary Francis Post's full name is inserted into them. This could be the key to unlocking the ciphers that have remained unsolved for many years. Testimonies from Gwen, who grew up next door to Post, provide personal details about his character. Her description of him as a violent husband and a person who taught her how to shoot may indicate tendencies matching the Zodiac's profile. Hans Smith's report of a gang led by Post in the High Sierra area also highlights the possibility of his involvement in serious crimes. However, despite the accumulating evidence and testimonies, official law enforcement agencies continue to hold back comments and are not rushing to close the Zodiac case based on the Casebreakers' data. This indicates that more evidence is needed for final conclusions, or that the existing data is still insufficiently convincing for justice. But there's another nuance. What if there were multiple Zodiacs? Were there several of them? The history of the Zodiac investigation indeed abounds with numerous suspicions and theories, many based on thin coincidences or mere conjecture. From Arthur Lee Allen to Charles Manson, the list of those suspected of being the Zodiac is impressive. Dennis Kaufman, who claimed that his stepfather could have been the Zodiac, even provided the FBI with items he believed might link his stepfather to the series of murders. The story with Richard Gaikowski, which gained publicity through a History Channel program, is also interesting. The speculation that Gaikowski could have been the Zodiac was partially based on his physical resemblance to the composite sketch of the killer and a police dispatcher recognizing his voice. However, this hypothesis also lacked sufficient evidence for official recognition, as no real evidence was found. Another case involved Louis Joseph Myers, who confessed to the Zodiac murders on his deathbed. But on the other hand, this could have been mere delirium or an attempt to immortalize his name. No evidence linking Louis to the murders, other than his words, was found. Thus, each new theory or confession adds more confusion to an already incredibly complex case. Perhaps the Casebreakers' investigation will prove key, but so far, despite their efforts and supposed findings, official recognition of their conclusions by law enforcement has not followed. And most importantly, being the Zodiac has become fashionable and honorable, as it is one of the most elusive criminals. Possibly, imitators were sending letters decades after the murders. I still hope that someday this case will be closed, as it's not just about solving an internet mystery, but the lives of real people who became victims of this criminal. I would appreciate your subscription, and thank you for watching.